Cultivating innovation, transforming institution. As the leader of the school, I inspire everyone to share one aspiration to be prepared for the dynamic world for both of the school and community. We don't want to be just a follower, but a creator.
Our classrooms are equipped with TVs and Apple TVs, which are sponsored by our alumni or known as Sri Kandi.
Leaders actively engage in activities that model technology integration, expand, and support the organization's vision for learning.
As an Apple Learning leader, I advocate at using iPad in my classroom. We demonstrate proficient use of iPad and empower our students to collaborate, create, publish, and innovate using technology.
Students are creators who believe their work matters and innovators who find solutions to complex problems.
As a student, we could truly understand what we learn, so it's easy to voice out our ideas and come up with solutions that will lead to great impacts to the world.
We collaborate. We build understanding. We solve challenges. And based on SDG goals, we contribute to the world. We design. We create. We publish. We study the culture of wellness. And that's how we imagine. We also ignite curiosity and bring people together. Sekolah Tun Fatimah uses Apple to support learning. We have been executing one-to-one iPad implementation and organizing various Apple programs for students and teachers to give them an opportunity to be part of the Apple community. As a result, 100% of our students and educators are able to use Apple native apps in their daily classes. Sekolah Tun Fatimah has always been a staple of success in various competitions. Now, we facilitate a selection of Apple apps and products to bring us to the continuation of our legacy of success. We facilitate Apple products and accessibility features to commit to the global excellence of the community.
التعليم اللغة ما صعب كشيء Apple
アプリケーションのおかげで教えやすくなりますよ。
We use Apple to unite and engage with the diverse community such as Cerdik, Together,
Cultivating innovation, transforming institution. As the leader of the school, I inspire everyone to share one aspiration to be prepared for the dynamic world for both of the school and community. We don't want to be just a follower, but a creator.
our classrooms are equipped with TVs and Apple TVs, which are sponsored by our alumni or known as Sri Kandi.
Leaders actively engage in activities that model technology integration, extend, and support the organization's vision for learning.
As an Apple Learning leader, I advocate at using iPad in my classroom. We demonstrate proficient use of iPad and empower our students to collaborate, create, publish, and innovate using technology.
Students are creators who believe their work matters and innovators who find solutions to complex problems.
As a student, we could truly understand what we learn, so it's easy to voice out our ideas and come up with solutions that will lead to great impacts to the world.
We collaborate. We build understanding. We solve challenges. And based on SDG goals, we contribute to the world. We design. We create. We publish. We study the culture of wellness. And that's how we imagine. We also ignite curiosity and bring people together. Sekolah Tfpc uses Apple to support learning. We have been executing one-to-one iPad implementation and organizing various Apple programs for students and teachers to give them an opportunity to be part of the Apple community. As a result, 100% of our students and educators are able to use Apple native apps in their daily classes. Sekolah Tfpc has always been a staple of success in various competitions. Now, we facilitate a selection of Apple apps and products to bring us to the continuation of our legacy of success. We facilitate Apple products and accessibility features to commit to the global excellence of the community.
التعليم اللغة ما صعب كشيء أبل
アプリケーションのおかげで教えやすくなりますよ。
We use Apple to unite and engage with the diverse community such as Cerday, Together,
Cultivating innovation, transforming institution. As the leader of the school, I inspire everyone to share one aspiration to be prepared for the dynamic world for both of the school and community. We don't want to be just a follower, but a creator.
our classrooms are equipped with TVs and Apple TVs, which are sponsored by our alumni or known as Sri Kandi.
Leaders actively engage in activities that model technology integration, extend, and support the organization's vision for learning.
As an Apple Learning leader, I advocate at using iPad in my classroom. We demonstrate proficient use of iPad and empower our students to collaborate, create, publish, and innovate using technology.
Students are creators who believe their work matters and innovators who find solutions to complex problems.
As a student, we could truly understand what we learn, so it's easy to voice out our ideas and come up with solutions that will lead to great impacts to the world.
We collaborate. We build understanding. We solve challenges. And based on SDG goals, we contribute to the world. We design. We create. We publish. We study the culture of wellness. And that's how we imagine. We also ignite curiosity and bring people together. Sekolah Fatima uses Apple to support learning. We have been executing one-to-one iPad implementation and organizing various Apple programs for students and teachers to give them an opportunity to be part of the Apple community. As a result, 100% of our students and educators are able to use Apple native apps in their daily classes. Sekolah Fatima has always been a staple of success in various competitions. Now, we facilitate a selection of Apple apps and products to bring us to the continuation of our legacy of success. We facilitate Apple products and accessibility features to commit to the global excellence of the community.
التعليم اللغة ما صعب كشيء أبل
アプリケーションのおかげで教えやすくなりますよ。
We use Apple to unite and engage with the diverse community such as Cerdik, Together,
Cultivating innovation, transforming institution. As the leader of the school, I inspire everyone to share one aspiration to be prepared for the dynamic world for both of the school and community. We don't want to be just a follower, but a creator.
our classrooms are equipped with TVs and Apple TVs, which are sponsored by our alumni or known as Sri Kandi.
Leaders actively engage in activities that model technology integration, extend, and support the organization's vision for learning.
As an Apple Learning leader, I advocate at using iPad in my classroom. We demonstrate proficient use of iPad and empower our students to collaborate, create, publish, and innovate using technology.
Students are creators who believe their work matters and innovators who find solutions to complex problems.
As a student, we could truly understand what we learn, so it's easy to voice out our ideas and come up with solutions that will lead to great impacts to the world.
We collaborate. We build understanding. We solve challenges. And based on SDG goals, we contribute to the world. We design. We create. We publish. We study the culture of wellness. And that's how we imagine. We also ignite curiosity and bring people together. Sekolah Fatima uses Apple to support learning. We have been executing one-to-one iPad implementation and organizing various Apple programs for students and teachers to give them an opportunity to be part of the Apple community. As a result, 100% of our students and educators are able to use Apple native apps in their daily classes. Sekolah Fatima has always been a staple of success in various competitions. Now we facilitate a selection of Apple apps and products to bring us to the continuation of our legacy of success. We facilitate Apple products and accessibility features to commit to the global excellence of the community.
التعليم اللغة ما صعب كشيء أبل
アプリケーションのおかげで教えやすくなりますよ。
We use Apple to unite and engage with the diverse community such as Cerday, Together,
Cultivating innovation, transforming institution. As the leader of the school, I inspire everyone to share one aspiration to be prepared for the dynamic world for both of the school and community. We don't want to be just a follower, but a creator.
our classrooms are equipped with TVs and Apple TVs, which are sponsored by our alumni or known as Sri Kandi.
Leaders actively engage in activities that model technology integration, expand, and support the organization's vision for learning.
As an Apple Learning leader, I advocate at using iPad in my classroom. We demonstrate proficient use of iPad and empower our students to collaborate, create, publish, and innovate using technology.
Students are creators who believe their work matters and innovators who find solutions to complex problems.
Art is the voice of knowledge echoing in the hearts and minds of the audience. Ladies and gentlemen, esteemed participants, a warm welcome to the Tun Fatima Public Speaking Webinar. My name is Mia Aisha Muzaffar.
And I'm Wadanya Kausa binti Wan Saiful Islam. We are most delighted to be your moderators for today's event, where we have the privilege of hosting an esteemed speaker who will share her knowledge and insights with us. Before we dive into the enriching content we have in store for you, let's set the stage.
First and foremost, I'd like to extend a heartfelt welcome to our renowned speaker, Miss Elizabeth and Louise, our Honorable Principal, Wan Hajar Razia binti Muhammad Din, teachers, participants, students, and not to forget each and every one of you, whether you're joining us from near or far, we're thrilled to have you all here today with us.
Now, a quick word about us. The Tfpc webinar is committed to providing you with insightful discussions and expert perspectives on a range of topics. Our mission is to foster learning, growth, and connections within our community. Today, we have a captivating topic to explore. We're delving deep into the power of speech, and we're privileged to have a distinguished speaker to guide us through this enlightening journey.
Without further ado, let me introduce our esteemed speaker, Miss Elizabeth and Louise. Miss Elizabeth, with 15 years of marketing and business development areas, founded Stagecraft, which has grown into Johor's largest speech and drama company with 2 centers, a training studios and soft skill training provider status. She's also a certified behavior consultant and oversees teachers training. She directs Stagecraft's annual theatre showcase and sits on the advisory panel of the Singapore Performing Art Festival Drama and Dance, where Stagecraft is the exclusive Malaysian partner. Amidst her various roles, Miss Elizabeth's passion still remains teaching school students the art of communication and nurturing them into excellent communicators and performers.
Before we begin, here are a couple of quick reminders. Firstly, the SPL KPM registration will be shared. Secondly, an e-certificate will be provided to those who fill out a Google form, which will also be shared. Please wait till the end of the webinar as we will share the forms then. Throughout the webinar, we encourage you to submit your questions and thoughts in the chat room at the end of the talk. We'll be sure to address them during the Q&A session. Speaking of which, following Miss Elizabeth's presentations, we will have a dedicated Q&A session. We'll be selecting questions from the chat room and we'll ask them for you. We've allocated a generous 15 minutes for this engaging discussion, so please keep those questions coming. Without further ado, let's not keep you waiting any longer. It's time to hear from our speaker, Ms. Elizabeth and Louise, who will enlighten us on the fascinating world of the power of speech. Ms. Elizabeth, the virtual stage is now yours.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for that wonderful welcome, such warm words for me. Thank you so much. Okay, so in this live stream, unfortunately, I won't be able to hear you speak, but not to worry. I think that we have many avenues for you to still ask your questions, and I would like to hear your questions. We have only about 1 hour, 15 minutes, I'm told, so we have to really zoom through this entire thing. Not to worry, take as many screenshots as you want and then ask your questions later. There will be points during the presentation when I will stop and give you an activity. Now, I can't hear your feedback, but I would like you to try out the activity, type it in the chat and submit it. The moderators will read it out, because if you're on the wrong path, at least I can correct you. Okay, so without further ado, let's go straight into it. Today's session will be divided into 3 main parts, okay, which is the first part is about knowing your audience, and then the second part is structuring your speech, and the final part, which will be practicing your delivery. I hope you can see that on the screen, everyone. So we have 3 sections. Now, you might be wondering why identify your audience. That's not common, I think. In most of the public speaking sessions I've been to, they do not talk so much about this, which I feel is a big mistake, because it is a very, very important part of preparing your speech. And if you have received the information from the organizers of this competition, they have told you that in your speeches, you need to identify your audience before you start. Okay, so these are the three main parts. We'll have to be going really fast through them. So let's proceed. So our learning outcomes for today, so that by the end of today, you will have an awareness of the people you are speaking to, so that you can, sorry, I'm so sorry. You have an awareness of the people you are speaking to, so that you can prepare your speech directly for them, making it relevant to them. Okay, and then you will have the ability to create your guideline very quickly, and then use the appropriate vocabulary for the people that you are speaking to. And finally, use the appropriate vocal and physical skills. Okay, right. So let's proceed. What is public speaking? Many of you have an image of someone standing on stage speaking, and that for you is public speaking. Okay, public speaking is actually any kind of speech you do in front of an audience. You could be standing in the classroom speaking. That is public speaking. And because it's generally a live audience, so we are normally very, very nervous, because we think about what they will be thinking of us, how they will be judging us, all those kind of things. And that is why public speaking is actually, if I'm not mistaken, the second most feared thing in the world. The first, if I am not wrong, is the fear of heights. So speaking about fears, do you know what the fear of public speaking is called? Okay, now you've got the computer at your fingertips. I'm sure many of you will be Googling it. But moderators, did anyone type out the answer? What is the fear of public speaking known as? Do we have an answer?
There is still no answer. I think there is still Googling it up on Google.
Yeah. So everyone is Googling their answers now, okay?
I'm sorry, Miss Elizabeth, are you there?
Need to know many, many kinds of. Clear with them?
Oh, Miss Elizabeth.
Yes, moderator?
I'm so sorry, but we miss you at the glassphobia, I think. When you were explaining it, you were cut off.
Okay, let me go back.
Maybe we could
can you
go
see
back?
glossophobia?
Yeah, here.
Okay, so glossophobia, yes, glossophobia is the fear of public speaking, right? In one of the classes, someone said it's the fear of lip gloss. So no, it is not the fear of lip gloss. It is the fear of public speaking. So what else do we know about public speaking? Public speaking is also not limited to just one kind of speech. It's various kinds of speeches. Anytime you address a crowd, the public, your classmates, you stand anywhere to speak to people, you are basically on a stage. You are doing public speaking. Okay, so there are many different kinds of speeches and different purposes, objectives of those speeches. Okay, so I'm going to repeat what I said earlier so that you will get it into your head. And throughout this mini workshop, you will be hearing me repeat this, which is the rule of three. So earlier you saw three different sections, right? The first one was know your audience. The second one was structuring your speech. And the third one was practicing your delivery. So three sections. I've tried to make everything in threes to to help you remember. So I call it the rule of 3. Okay, so let's move on to the first one. And the first one just now was identifying your audience, wasn't it? All right, knowing your audience. Why do you think it is important to know your audience? Why? In fact, now we've included it in as one of the criteria in your speeches. Why? After that, you know your audience, only you can structure your speech according to their understanding, right? And then you practice your delivery. So let's look at knowing your audience, okay? When you say know your audience, you will try to understand more about them. You will try to understand what is their education background, okay? What ages are these people that you're speaking to, and how familiar are they with this topic? Why do you think that is important? If somebody can just write down in the chat, why do you think it is important to know these things? Their education background, the age, their familiarity with the topic, their interest in the topic, their attitude or their mood towards whatever it is you want to present. Why do you think it is important at all? Can we have some answers from the chat? Because this is important for you to know, because it's going to affect the speeches that you write. So try and answer now.
Miss Elizabeth, someone said about, so we're able to make them understand based on what they can comprehend. I think that's quite true, isn't it?
Very, very true. You actually hit the nail on the head, because if you are speaking, let's say you are your identified audience is a group of primary school kids. So if you're speaking to primary school kids, you're going to have to simplify your topic. You're going to have to choose the correct vocabulary. Okay. Let's say, for instance, moderators, are there any other answers?
Yeah, that's another one from Khadija Ashari. She said to feel connected with our audience.
Very good. And how do you show that connection? We will come to that later. To feel connected, you must understand, you must actually walk in their shoes. You must understand what they are going through. What are their concerns? When they come for this talk that you are giving, what are their concerns? What is on their mind? What do they want out of your talk? And in your talk, you must make sure you address that. Very often we are given a topic, all right, to speak on, and we write what we want to say. We write what we want to deliver. Now, while that is important, especially if your purpose is to educate the public, you need to start with where they are now. So you need to understand what they are facing. That is how you connect with them. And once you've made that connection, they will be more open to listening to you, because they can feel that, okay, this is relevant to me. Okay, yeah, I understand what she's saying. And she understands what, or he understands what we are going through, what difficulties we are having. Because hopefully in your speech, you are going to address some of those difficulties, some of those needs, or some of those concerns that they have. That is your job as the public speaker. That is what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to start with that. Okay, where are they coming from? And then you take them on this journey, which is your speech, to the new vision that you have. Okay, so both those answers are very, very correct. So I'm going to give you a short activity here. You're going to type out your answer. There are 3 different speeches that I'm going to show you now, and each speech has a different target audience. Okay, so based on that target audience, you think about it. If you were that target audience, sitting down and listening to that speech, what concern or worry or what need or want would you have? Okay, so I would like you to type it in the chat box. How are you going to do this? Okay, so this is what it is. So there are 3 there, right? The first speech that you're going to be giving is using Microsoft Word. And who are you giving the speech to? You're giving it to a group of senior citizens above the age of 70. Okay. The second speech is living with diabetes. Who are you giving it to? You're giving it to children aged 9 to 10 years old. And the third speech, exercise right. Your target audience, 18 to 40-year-olds. Okay, now, depending on which speech you choose, please type in the chat box number. So number 1, that means you've chosen speech number 1, and please list down at least one need or want or concern you think that audience, the senior citizens, might have when they come to the speech to listen to you talk. Okay, if you chose number 2, living with diabetes, and you know you're going to be speaking to children, write there number 2 and think about one worry that that child might have about diabetes. Same with number 3, okay? What question do you think that audience might have? What is the want? What is the want, okay? What is the need they have? So type the number and then type one need or concern or worry that you think they might have. You don't have to choose all 3. I mean, you can, but you don't have to. You choose one. You want to test yourself, choose at least one. If you have some answers, moderator, you can read them out to me already if you already have some answers.
Well, for me, I think being a 9-year-old, this is actually the second question. Being the 9-year-old, I wouldn't understand what actually diabetes is. So probably for me being a public speaker, it would be a great help if someone would tell me what diabetes actually is before delving into problems or anything else.
So
that's
to
for me.
explain what it is, what is diabetes? And if you are a child living with diabetes, then you want to know what is this illness or disease that you're living with, right? You want someone to explain that to you. Okay, good. Anyone else?
Well, Muhammad is Darwish said something about number 3 is how to actually effectively use exercise.
How to effectively use?
How to actively exercise.
How to actively exercise. Okay, very good. Yes, because sometimes we do the wrong exercises, isn't it? Right? That are of no benefit, and in fact, which may cause harm to us. So, okay, that's very good. Anyone else want to try?
Okay, it seems like Intan,
yes.
I said that for number 1, using Microsoft Word, what on earth are my grandchildren doing on their laptop? That's what she said. How is that even possible?
Very good. Very, very good. Okay, so as a speaker, you would want to address that. You might say, many times you might see your grandchildren on their laptop and they seem to be typing furiously. All right. So what is it they're typing into? Chances are they're typing into, well, it could be Instagram, it could be anything else as well, but chances are it could be a word processing document known as Microsoft Word. Okay, so then you explain what Microsoft Word actually does. It is the old-fashioned test pad. That is basically what it is. Any other concerns anybody has written down? Would you like to share?
Well, Sufi Lianat said something about number 2. As a child, you wouldn't understand what diabetes is. I think, yeah, great point, Sufi. I would agree, 100%.
Yes, you wouldn't understand. What else do you think a child age 9 or 10, might want to ask the speaker? If you you now need to walk in the shoes of that child, of the audience, okay, 9 to 10-year-olds living with diabetes. Think, what would you want to ask the speaker if you had diabetes? What would you want to ask the speaker? Or what would you hope the speaker would cover in their topic, in their speech?
Oh, here an answer. It says they would want to understand the consequences of diabetes and ways to prevent it. As the saying goes, prevention is better than cure. Wow, you really are a public speaker, Nurul Iziana.
Yes. Very good. Yes. Okay. So the consequences, I think that's very important. And I was waiting for someone to say that, because as a child, you're still a child, but you want to understand, what are the consequences of me having this disease? How is it going to affect my life? What are the things I can do and what are the things I cannot do? Not just what I can eat and what I cannot eat, but is this going to affect my life drastically? Will there be things that I can do? Will there be things that I cannot do? You, as the public speaker, it is your job to answer those questions in your speech. So you must write your speech having that in mind. That is why understanding your audience, knowing your audience is very, very important. Very often overlooked, but it is very important. So when you prepare the speeches that you are going to submit for the competition, please go back and think again. Who am I addressing? Who am I addressing? Am I addressing parents? Am I addressing teachers? Am I addressing members of the public? Am I addressing government ministers or a government ministry? Or who am I addressing? Right. Once you have determined, because it's up to you to decide, yeah? It's up to you to decide who you want to address in the speech. Once you have determined that, now put yourself in their shoes. Put yourself in their shoes and think, what questions would I have if I was seated there? Then make sure you answer those questions, or you talk about it. You structure your speech in such a way that it covers those topics, those questions in your speech, which is why in the competition you are told, before you start your speech, you need to identify the audience. And that is just as simple as you say, I imagine I am speaking to so-and-so. You can just say that. Or you can say, my target audience is so-and-so. Okay? So then the adjudicators will know, okay, so they have an audience in mind. Now let's see, are they going to adjust their vocabulary and their style of speaking and all that to cater to that target audience? Because that is the job of the public speaker, not to just stand there and speak. Okay? So that's what you need to do for your competition. Okay? All right. So that is knowing your audience. So let's move on. We did knowing your audience and why it is important to know your audience. The next part is structuring your speech, organizing your ideas. Okay? Structuring your speech. This part is a bit long, but we're going to have to move through it a little bit fast. If you've got questions, take screenshots. If you've got questions, you can ask them in the chat. Okay? So, structure your speech, 3 main parts. Again, remember I told you the rule of 3. 3 main parts, the head, the body, and the conclusion, or the end, the tail. Okay? And the head itself will consist of the attention getter and the introduction. Then the body is where you're going to apply again rule of 3 with transition words. And then the tail has a summary and a CTA. Please take a screenshot because we'll be coming back to this. Okay? So let's go into the first part, which is the head. And in the head, the first part of the head is the attention getter. What is an attention getter? Okay, that's an interesting question. What is an attention getter? Of course, as the name suggests, it's something which you're going to use to grab people's attention, right? But it's not as simple as that. What can we use to grab people's attention, right? So I'm going to go through four ways we can use. There are many ways. We will just focus on 4 ways, okay? So the attention getter is necessary so that you can get them interested. In some places, it's called a hook. You hook them into your speech, okay? So you get them interested. And there are, as I said, many methods to do this, but we're going to focus on these 4 methods. The first one is a story. Okay, you're going to use a story, a short story. Why? Because everyone loves stories. Everybody loves stories. So you start with a short story, which must be relevant to your speech. And then you lead into your speech with that, okay? Or you can use a quote, an idiom, a phrase. You can start with a question. You notice I put the question somewhere down there because I'm so tired of everyone starting with a question. And they will always start with, very simple, very obvious questions, which really does not grab attention at all, okay? So if you're going to use a question, be creative with your questions, okay? And then the last one is starting with a fact or a statistic. Okay, so the next part of the head is the introduction. So after the attention getter, you will have the introduction, and that's like the neck, okay? The head, the neck, the connector, where you actually go into what is the topic of your speech. So we're going to have a look at all that now, okay? This first one, where you start with a question. Okay, you notice the question that I have used. We are starting with, yes, we are starting with the question. Okay, look at the question that we have used, okay? So the one in red is the question. Did you know that if we killed all the insects in the world in 50 years, human life would cease to exist? It needs to be an interesting question because remember, your objective is to hook them, to get them interested. And then the part in yellow is the introduction or the neck, the connector into your actual speech. Okay, for introduction like that, what do you think the topic could have been? What do you think the topic could have been? Can somebody write in the chat box, please? Can someone write in the chat box? What do you think the topic could have been if the speaker started with a question like that and then went into an introduction like that in yellow? What could have been the topic given to them? Any answers, moderators?
Let's see.
There's no answer yet, but I'm sure they're still thinking of one.
Any idea, Kausa? What do you think the topic of the speech could have been for this? No living creature is of greater importance to our ecology and economy as the humble six-legged insect. That itself should give you a clue.
Well, we have a few answers from our audience here. Most of them have mentioned the word ecosystem. For example, the importance of insects in our ecosystem. Yes, and whatsoever.
Yeah, so that is most likely, it's something on insects, okay? It's something on maybe, yes, like you said, insects in our ecosystem, okay? And then, and then there are a few other examples of starting with a question, about how many of you are fans of Star Wars? That's another question. Again, it has to be appropriate to the topic that's given, but I'm just giving you examples of questions. Okay, the next one is an anecdote or a story, a personal story, okay? So the part in pink is the story and the part in yellow is the connector or the introduction into the actual speech, okay? So please read through very quickly or take a screenshot and then we move on. So that is using an anecdote. And most likely the topic was my favorite dish or Malaysian dishes or maybe Malaysia's the Malaysian national dish or something. I mean, I consider nasi lemak as the Malaysian national dish. Okay, and then let's look at this one, using a famous quote or phrase. Okay, so Again, the part in pink is the quote, all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy. And then the orange part is the connector or the introduction, okay? And there are so many others that you can use. Okay, and there are many others you can use. Charity begins at home, all these kind of things you can start with. But again, they must be relevant to your speech. I've seen time and time again, students come with a whole list of quotes, idioms memorized, and then in their impromptu, they just throw them out there with no relevance at all, just to sound smart. That's really, really horrible, because what it is showing is you do not know how to make your speech relevant to the audience, okay? So please don't do that. You choose a quote, make sure it is relevant to the topic. Okay, the next one is using a fact or a statistic. And this one I usually tell my students, you have to be smart in how you phrase it, okay? If I were to say, for example, if I were to say 30% of all Malaysians do not have a bank account, okay? Okay, it doesn't sound shocking. It doesn't sound like something enough to wake you up, to hook you into my speech, right? So you need to be smarter with how you phrase it. Maybe you can say, in this room, in an audience of 10, there will be at least 3 of you here who do not have a bank account. And that's the same thing, right? 3 out of 10 is 30%. So if you're going to use a fact or a statistic, again, bear in mind what the idea is. The idea is to be used as an attention getter. So phrase it in a way that will draw attention. Okay, so that is the attention getter part. I actually have an activity, but I think we have no time. We have to rush. So let's move on to the body of the speech, okay? So again, I'm going to repeat the body of the speech. So rule of 3, right? Just now there was the head, the body, and the tail. So now we come to the body of the speech, and you're going to hear me repeat rule of 3 again, okay? What is the meaning of that? Because I want you to try and make at least 3 points, and later I will show you in more detail, but in each point, make sure there are 3 parts to your point, which is the point itself, all right, the name of the point, the explanation to that point, and an example to back up that explanation. So again, you hear me repeat 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, okay? So try and make 3 points, and each point to be broken up into 3 parts, which is the point, followed by the explanation, and then followed by an example, okay? When you end that, always try and tie it back to your point. When you have finished the point, explanation and example, try and tie it back to the point again to kind of close up that point properly before you move on to the next one. I'm going to show you an example of how that is done, okay? So this one is an example where the topic is about milk and encouraging people to drink milk. So the case for milk, and you will see I've highlighted, I've put all the different colors there, okay? So the benefits don't stop there. That is actually a transition into the point. And the point is the one that in the darker red, okay? Milk also contains protein, okay? That is the point. The part in green is the explanation to the point. And then the part in lilac or the light purple color is an example. Finally, I have a part in blue there where I kind of round it up. I'm restating the point again. Okay, is that clear? So please take a screenshot because this is an example for you. And then pay attention to the part in orange. I think that's orange, the one that says the benefits don't stop there. I said that's a transition. It's a transition phrase, okay? And so in the body of the speech, you need to be having good transition words and phrases, okay? And that is to help you move from point to point smoothly, to help the audience who are listening to you connect the dots, okay? And so these are some of the examples that you have, but please don't limit it to just this. Please make sure you can go and Google up. There'll be lots of examples of transition phrases that you can find. Use them. Try and make it a habit of using new transition phrases, following that. On the contrary, however, to sum it up, those kind of things, okay? Okay, again, this is an activity for the body goals. Funny, yeah? Body goals, but okay, I don't think we have time for this. So we are moving on. So 3 parts, right? Head we have done, which consists of attention getter and the introduction or the connector. Then we go into the body. The body, try and keep it to at least 3 points, and each point broken down into 3 parts. Connect each point with transition phrases, okay? Now we move on to the third part of the speech, which is the conclusion, or otherwise known as the tail of the speech, okay? Yeah. The tail of the speech. Now, the tail of the speech is actually a summary of your points. This is where you are going to restate your points. Say them in a new way, in a different way, but you're just going to say them out again, paraphrase, repeat what was the original topic and what you have covered. What are the points that you have covered? So I've given an example here, right? You can see that the part in purple is the example of the summary. So without a doubt, we can all say with confidence that there are indeed many benefits to adding milk to our diet because it is low in calories, high in proteins, rich in other nutrients. So all that would be points that you would have brought up in your speech before that. Okay, the purple part is the transition, getting to the summary, and then the orange part is the actual summary. Okay, and the points that were mentioned in your speech are restated here. Okay, and this is for the benefit of those who may not have been listening, may have been asleep, or maybe did not catch the whole thing. At least now they know that, okay, so there were this many points, and these are the things that the speaker has covered. The other thing that you might want to have in your conclusion, in the tail of the speech, is what is known as a call to action. A call to action, generally you see this in advertisements where they say, okay, register now, or book here, or sign up today. Those are all calls to action where you want your audience to do something. So they've sat and listened to your speech the whole time. And then what? What are they supposed to do? You obviously don't want to miss the chance. You want them to do something about what they have just heard, right? So that is called a call to action. Okay, there's a little bit of explanation about what a call to action is. It doesn't have to be advertisement style call to action. It can be something as simple as, so what are you waiting for? Make sure you get in 20 minutes of walk today itself. It's a simple call to action. Okay. Right, moderator, how much time do we have left?
In the beginning of this.
Sorry? Mia, did you say something? I didn't get that. How much time do we have left?
We have around 30 minutes.
Sorry, did you say 33?
I'm so sorry, you're lagging right now, Miss Elizabeth.
0?
Pardon? Miss Elizabeth, are you there? Dialect. Kita collect. Dialect.
Audience, right? I will come back to structuring your speech later because there are some very important techniques I want to show you about the more important things about like how do you actually find your points. Okay, so let me move through these three parts first and then I will come back to body of the speech, gathering your points. Okay, so we will just skip this activity. Let's go to this third part, which is practicing your delivery. Now I must say this is something that many students forget to do because they have written out their speech, they pick up the speech, they're walking up and down, memorizing, repeating, memorizing, repeating, memorizing. No, you practice in front of a mirror, you practice in front of people. You don't simply practice just by holding your speech and repeating everything that is in there. Why? Because when you speak in front of people, there are a few different skills you need to incorporate into your speech. Okay, you need to incorporate things like, isn't this moving? Right. Okay, so there are two skill sets that we want to pay attention to, and those are physical and vocal skills. Okay, yeah, physical, you can see the person is doing something like that. Okay, because it is what is your body doing during the speech? What is it doing? And what is your voice doing? You can have the best content. You could have written the best speech, the most interesting 3 points, most interesting attention getter, but you deliver it in a monotone or you deliver it too softly. Yes, you are going to be recording your speech and submitting it, but still, if you don't speak loudly and clearly, if you do not enunciate your words clearly, then it's as good as losing your audience immediately. Okay, so what are physical skills and what are vocal skills? Let's look at those. Okay. So physical skills is everything, like I said earlier, to do with the body. It would include your facial expressions. It would include your breathing and your voice projection. It would include your posture. It would include your body language. Now, what do I mean by body language and actions? People do a lot of public speaking in a way that is very distracting, as in the hands are going all over the place. In public speaking, you want them to be listening to your words, not being distracted by the movement of the hands. It is not at all necessary to say the title of my speech is, no, that is not necessary at all. In fact, it is incredibly distracting. The use of the hands and body, like gesture, like raising your shoulders or something, is only meant to add meaning to your speech, not meant to distract. So make sure whatever gesture you use, whatever action you use, is very natural. Often I have to stop my students when they're doing like this, like that, or the hands are always going like this, constantly going like this, the hands, okay? I have to stop and ask them, is that how you speak to your friends? When you speak to your friends, do you keep doing that? Do you keep doing that when you speak to your friends? So the obvious answer is no, we don't. So why do we do it when, we've got a speech to give in public? Do not overuse the hands because they are more a distraction then, okay? Use it when it adds meaning to your speech and make the actions natural, okay? Make it, the term used is organic. Make the actions organic. Okay. Facial expressions, that's the other thing. That's the other big thing, because you have a speech which is interesting, the content is very interesting, but your face doesn't seem to say so. The expressions don't seem to say so. And so that is what can turn your audience away when they're not seeing a difference in the facial expressions. So please go back and practice facial expressions. Simple things like, lifting your eyebrows, bringing it down. Those are such simple actions that we can start doing today itself, but many people don't. I have many students who struggle with this because, after all, it is a muscle. This part of the face, they all have muscles, right? And if you don't use them often, you will find that it is difficult to get control of them and to move them. But you very much need to, okay? Here, smile. Make sure you use facial expressions that are relevant to your speech and that would grab people's attention. Okay, so those were physical skills. Now look at the vocal skills. So the vocal skills I mentioned earlier would have been projecting your voice, okay? Making sure that you speak loudly enough. Now you might be thinking, oh, I'm recording, I'm going to use a mic. Actually, I'm not sure whether the mic is going to be allowed in your recording. There are some competitions where, even though it's via video submission, mic is not allowed, because this is the test. This is the measure of how good a public speaker you are, if you are able to throw your voice enough to the device that is going to capture your voice. Okay? Because you might have a mic and you could speak into it and it sounds loud, but then when you come face to face and you're going to do the impromptu, you can barely be heard because you do not know how to project your voice. And projecting the voice is not shouting. It's not the same thing. It is throwing your voice from your tummy. Okay? So using your voice projection, then using intonation. So what is intonation? Intonation is very simply the rising and the falling of the voice. So like I said, what is intonation? So I went up like that, right? So it's the rising of the voice. And if you do not use intonation, you have no intonation, you have a monotone then. Okay, so make sure there's intonation in your voice. Make sure you're pronouncing and enunciating your words clearly. Then make sure there is there's good use of pace and pause. Sometimes you may not have planned your speech correctly. I think for the lower secondary, it's 3 to 5 minutes or something like that. And for the upper secondary, it's 4 to 6. But you may not have planned it. You may not have structured your speech correctly, and you have too much information in there. So what happens is you are running through it like a bullet train. You think that, oh, okay, I managed to give them so many points. I spoke so much. But a public speaker's job is not just to rattle off points. You have to make sure that whatever you rattled off is understood. And in order to make sure it's understood, you have to use the correct pace and pauses. If you have not built pace and pause into your speech, chances are you're going to lose your audience again. Okay, so make sure you time your speech to give yourself enough time to pace yourself and to be able to use your pauses. Okay, I have a short little exercise here. This was spoken by Greta Thunberg. If any of you know who Greta Thunberg is, she's well, not so little girl anymore. She was a little girl when she first started the group called Fridays for Future. And this is the speech she gave at the Climate Action Conference. She was only, I think, 17 that time, but she was very, very angry with, with the adults she thought were responsible for all the global warming and all the climate environment problems that we were having. So she spoke this with so much of information. You can take a screenshot, go back and practice, see what it's like, okay? Okay, so yeah, we move on. We got no time for all this. Okay, so I'm going back to the body of the speech now, right? Body of the speech. Now, the important part about how do I find points. So I'm going to share with you 3 techniques. There are many techniques. We're just going to focus on 3 techniques. The first technique is called the 5 W's and 1 H. I think many of you know that already by now. Even if you didn't learn them from your public speaking teacher, I'm sure you probably would have learned it in your English class. Okay, what are the 5 W's and 1 H? It is the who, what, when, where, why, and how. Okay, 5 W's and 1 H. So we're going to look at an example of how to use the 5 W's and 1 H with the topic exercise is important. So let's look at the first W. The first W was who, right? So with the word who, what question can you form in your head? I have chosen the question, who needs to exercise? Now, even though I'm using the 5 W's 1 H technique, I am still going to go by the rule of 3, where I'm going to break it up into 3 parts. I'm going to have the point, I'm going to have the explanation, and I'm going to give an example. Okay, so the question that I asked in my mind was, who needs to exercise? So how will I start my point? I will say, everybody needs to exercise regardless of age. That's my P, all right? Point, explanation, example. So my point is, everybody needs to exercise regardless of age. That's my point, okay? That's the point I'm trying to make. This is going to be followed by an explanation, all right? So the explanation is, this is because exercise serves various functions for different age groups. That's the explanation. So that is why everybody needs to exercise, because different age groups have different exercise has different functions for that age group. Okay, for example, in young children. Okay, so that's my last E. For example, in young children, what does exercise do? Okay, it builds bones. For older people, it helps to maintain your agility, your mobility. It builds strength as well. All those kind of things. So you see, I have done my P, which is everybody needs to exercise regardless of age. That's one of the points I'm going to use. And this was for the who. This was a question I asked in my head. I took the W, the first W was who. And then I thought, okay, what question can I ask? Okay, who needs to exercise? Okay, then I answered that with everybody. Everybody needs to exercise. And I elaborated that, a P, an E, and another E. Okay, so we can try that again with maybe another point. Like, let's say, just now we had who, what, when, where, right? So let's take a what. Can somebody write in the chat, what point can you bring out of this what? The who, what, when, where, why, how. These are just question starters, which you will ask yourself in order to know where you're going to go and look for these points. Just now I went to a who to find my first point. Now we're going to a what. So what can I get as my point from the what? Somebody maybe write in the chat. Let me see if you're following me, if you understand what I'm saying.
Wow. Awesome start and statement that what are the equipment required for exercising?
Very, very good.
What type of exercises could be done?
Yes.
What are the exercises to be done? Okay, so now in your speech, you might not ask it as a question. You could ask it as a question, but then, you would end up asking just questions. I mean, throughout the speech, you might go, what kind of exercises need to be done? And then you da-da-da-da-da-da. And then what kind of equipment needs to be used? Da-da-da-da-da-da. You'll go like that. So instead of asking it as a question, you can, maybe just 1 or 2 questions, but instead of asking it as a question, you could say, let's look at the exercises that can be done. So what exercises can be done? I've rephrased it as, let's look at exercises which can be done. That is your P. That is your P. Then you will go into an explanation or an elaboration on that, followed by examples. Same with equipment. Instead of what equipment is needed, you could just say, you could start your P by saying, you need no equipment to exercise. You could even start like that. You need absolutely no equipment to exercise. Or you need very little equipment to exercise. Because you're talking about equipment, it's what point are you trying to make about equipment now? Okay, so that would be your P. Then that would be followed by an elaboration on the equipment, and then give an example, maybe your own personal example or something like that. Okay, all right, so that was the 5 W's and 1 H. The next one we want to look at is cause and effect. So the other way, when a topic is given to you, the first thing that happens is we freeze because we panic, right? Do not panic. Remember, I told you vocal and physical skills. One of the physical skills is breathing. Now, why is breathing so important? Again, many of us overlook this. When you're placed on stage and you need to speak, you just panic. Breathe, because breathing sends oxygen to your brain and it calms you down and it helps you think. So force yourself to breathe. Breathe in and breathe out. Okay. So, and then think, okay, this is the topic given. How am I going to get my points? Okay, I can use my 5 W's, 1 H. It doesn't mean you're going to use only one technique, okay? You can get some points by using technique 1. You can get some points by using technique 2. By all means, use as many techniques as you want, okay? So this is the second technique. The topic has been given. What technique can I use? Oh, okay, I can use cause and effect. Now, again, based on the topic that's given, okay? So what you're going to do is you're going to break it down by identifying the causes or the effects based on the topic that has been given, okay? It might be one cause with many effects, or it might be many causes producing one effect. It could be something like that. Again, I'm going to go with exercise is important. I'm going back to the same topic, okay? So the P here that I've chosen, the name of the point here is exercise can increase cardiorespiratory fitness. Exercise can increase cardiorespiratory fitness. That is the point that I am trying to make. This point has to be followed by an elaboration. Okay, so regular exercise gets the heart beating fast and then pumps air into your lungs, and over time this means that you strengthen your heart and lungs, and you are better able to endure physical activity. So that is the explanation of why do I say that exercise increases cardiorespiratory fitness. Okay, so that's the explanation. Then it needs to be followed by the example. So for example, when jogging quickly, a person's heart starts. So I'm giving the example of this is what is happening. Over time, they find that they can do the activity now without panting. Actually, and what I should have done here, which I did not do, so don't follow this. What you should do here is, in the example, give your example. Instead of making it third person like this, when jogging quickly, a person's heart rate. No, say, when I started jogging, I felt my heart was beating really fast and I was panting. But over time, I realized that I could do this quite effortlessly. I realized that I had built my endurance and my cardiorespiratory fitness. Okay, so that is an example that you can give. So remember cause and effect. The effect was cardiorespiratory fitness, right? It will be, your cardiorespiratory fitness will be affected. So that is an effect. I know sometimes it can get confusing to what is the cause and what is the effect, okay? So let's look whether we have another one. Okay, yeah, so we have another one here. If the topic, for example, preventing unemployment among youth, okay, the point that I want to make is ensure students do not drop out of school before finishing at least secondary schooling. Now, is this an effect or is this a cause of unemployment? Please type in the chat. Is this an effect or is this a cause? Moderators? The topic is preventing unemployment among youth, right? Preventing unemployment among youth. The first point I'm making that is we need to ensure students do not drop out of school before finishing secondary schooling. That is the first point that I was trying to make. Now, looking at that, am I stating a cause of unemployment? Am I stating an effect of unemployment? What is it?
Majority least are effects, and I think that's quite true.
Okay. No. So they're saying that dropping out of school before finishing secondary school is the effect? Is that what they're saying?
In my opinion, I would say it's a cause. Students dropping out of school is a cause of unemployment.
Yes, this is a cause. So when I look at the topic itself, preventing unemployment among youth, the thing I'm going to be thinking of is, well, what is causing unemployment? What is causing unemployment among youth? And I'm going to try and list down all the causes of this unemployment among youth, right? So what I have listed there, which is school dropout, that is a cause of unemployment. It's a cause of unemployment. Okay. So the third method, okay, so that is the cause and effect method. If you wanted to talk about the explanation for this, you could, you would have to cite, like some research that says that, if I'm not mistaken, I think pre-pandemic, I think it was 2016 when unemployment was the highest in Malaysia. And there is also data that shows that dropout rates were high at that point. During pandemic, also dropout rates were very high. So that could cause high rate of unemployment as well, right? So this is using the cause and effect technique. The third technique we're going to look at is pros and cons. This is very, very easy. I'm sure you've been doing this all the time in school. Moderator, is there something you want to say?
Yes, actually, just to remind Miss Elizabeth, you have 8 minutes left. 8 minutes left.
Right. Okay. Before Q&A, right?
Yes.
Okay, all right. So this is the last one actually, which is using pros and cons. So if you are given a topic like this, allowing students to use technology in the classroom, it doesn't say whether you need to support it or you need to be against it, which means it's free. It's up to you to decide, right? Then you can first go by listing all the pros, and I've listed one there. Students will take more ownership of their education. Now, what does that mean? Provide an explanation of that. That means when they're allowed to research the topics in there, they would be more invested in their own education. They'll take more ownership of their own education. Now, give an example. Again, very good to give your own, where, I say I get excited when I'm set a topic that I need to research, and it helps me remember better. Okay, so that is an example, right? You can also address it by looking at the cons. Okay, so what are the cons of allowing students to use technology in the classroom? So there we have covered 3 techniques. There are other techniques, if you know of, you can use, but because time is so limited, I've just done 3 techniques. The first technique is the 5 W's and 1 H. Who, what, when, where, why, how. The second one is using cause and effect, and the third one is using pros and cons. Now, with each technique also, I will still try and get a point and break it into 3 parts, which is the name of the point, the explanation for it, and followed by an example. Do that and you're well on your way to becoming a good public speaker. Remember, this body is sandwiched between an attention getter, an interesting attention getter that grabs your attention and hooks you in, and then a conclusion that summarizes everything that you have said. And it must be an impactful conclusion. Okay? If you do that and practice, okay? It's not going to be overnight. You're not going to ace it straight away, but put yourself in that position where you take a topic and you try to speak using these techniques. You will find over time you become good, right? But first you need to practice. Okay, moderator, I think I've made it just in time. So we can move on to the Q&A session. If you've got other questions, you can possibly email us those questions. The email address is given there.
Well, can you hear us? Hello? Well, okay. So, sorry for the technical breakdown just now. So, let's just continue, okay? We're going to continue with the Q&A session. Now, everyone, here's your mission. Think of the most courteous, most mind-boggling question you can come up with and send them our way in the chat. We'll try to read it all of the question if possible, because we got a whooping 15 minutes to stop or hopefully enlighten our speakers. Please do send your questions on the chat.
Okay, here's one question from the audience. Someone asked, how long should the introduction be?
You mean the first part of the speech? I believe the the person asking the question
I'm sorry, Miss Elizabeth. Could you repeat your answer? Because just now you were lagging for a little while and we couldn't hear you properly.
Okay, so I said if you are referring to the first part of the speech, and especially if you have a 3-minute speech, a time limit given, the introduction should not take more than a minute. But when I say introduction, I'm talking about the head of the speech, which includes the attention getter and the introduction, okay? That whole thing should not take more than a minute, unless the only exception is if, and this in some speeches, if the attention getter is a story and the story itself is going to explain a large part of your speech. I don't have an example to give you now, but sometimes you will find that. And so because of that, then the story might take some time and it would be more than a minute, right? But it has enough teachings and examples in there to sustain the rest of the speech, okay? But otherwise, attention getter and introduction itself, try not to exceed 1 minute.
Well, here's a question from Iskandar. He said that, can I know your scoring criteria? I think that's quite a good question.
Scoring criteria normally in any public speaking competition will look at content and delivery style. So the content will be how well your speech has been structured, whether you have enough points in there, and whether the points are logical, rational, and they are well connected, whether they join the dots well. Okay. Then on your delivery style, the manner that you deliver it in, like I mentioned, the voice projection, the intonation, is it an interesting delivery? They will look at all that. The third thing is the audience. Have you spoken things that are relevant to the audience that you mentioned? So in other words, have you structured your speech, or have you written a speech that is really targeted at that particular audience that you said it's targeted at?
Okay, I see. Here's another question. Someone asked, is it acceptable to use a made-up fact in the head of the speech? No matter how logical it is.
Okay, so we're not speaking at the United Nations, right? So I think it's fine actually, because especially if it's impromptu, I for secondary school, maybe not so for university and for adults, but for secondary school, I would encourage you to try and get your facts right. But if you can't, there is no way at that point the judges are going to Google that, unless the judge happens to know that that is not true. Okay, so you're taking a chance, but I think it is okay. I think it's fine. Don't quote me, and don't do it when you're in university. But for now, because I feel that you are all just beginning this journey of public speaking, just to get you into the habit. Of course, it goes without saying that to be a good public speaker, to be a good debater, you have to be doing a lot of reading. You must be reading. So then next time you don't have to make up facts, right?
I have one question.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Okay. When speaking in a speech, I usually focus on the upper body of my movements. Let's say, for example, my hands, my facial expressions. But what about my feet? Should I move around whatsoever? I usually don't know what to do with my feet. So,
Okay.
yes, what do you think about that?
Yeah, so there are various styles of public speaking. There are those who stand still and give a speech, and they can do that effectively. And there are those that move and give a speech. Be careful if you choose to move. There are not many speakers who do this well. Okay, Steve Jobs was an excellent public speaker who could move and speak. I have watched so many others, students trying this, and all they do is they just distract people, because it ends up, you feel like you're a snake. You're going like this because you're watching them move from this side to that side. Not good. The way you do it is actually you move in a very, again, I'm using the word organic. You move in a very organic way to a part of the small stage. And the purpose of this, if it's a live audience, it is because you want to address that side of the audience, all right, or this side of the audience. If it's not a live audience, sometimes the reason the speaker does it is because it creates these kind of milestones, all right, or it creates like a checkpoint for the audience to remember. Then the audience is, yes, I remember when he was talking about that point, he was standing in this side of the stage. And then when he spoke about that point, he was this side of the stage. Now, in order to get that done right, you really need to practice this, because it can go horribly wrong. Okay? So if you don't want to do that, then just stand where you are. Yeah, some slight movement. You might take a step here, you might take a step there. That's fine. But I'm talking about walking the stage, right? Don't do that unless you really know how to do it well.
Here's another question. In most public speaking competitions, there is usually a time limit, as you mentioned. So, usually, do they deduct the marks if we exceed that time limit?
Okay, the public speaking competitions that I have adjudicated, we don't deduct the marks, we just stop listening. So whatever points you bring up after that are not taken into consideration at all. You have a wonderful, hilarious, very funny, impactful ending. Unfortunately, it won't be taken into consideration. Okay, it is a skill to manage your time on stage well. So that is important for you to know as a public speaker as well.
Advanced vocabulary. Okay, so here's the last question. Does advanced vocabulary or simple words more important when we want to structure a speech that people can understand easily?
Yes, definitely. I mean, you can use all the bombastic words, but if nobody understands, what is the purpose, right? You can give the most eloquent speech with simple words, right? Heartfelt words that connect with the audience, right? You don't need to use eloquent words. If you have, because in some competitions, they might give some marks for vocabulary, but I would think that it's more how the vocabulary was used rather than what vocabulary was used.
So with all that question being asked, it ends our Q&A session. Ladies and gentlemen, as our Q&A session comes to a close, we want to extend our sincere thanks to Miss Elizabeth, our speaker, our hardworking team, and each and every one of your active participations. Your questions and insights have made this webinar truly engaging and thoughtful. We hope you leave here today with valuable takeaways and a deeper understanding of our topic.
Before we sign off, here's a friendly reminder. Mark your calendars for our public speaking competition on the 23rd of November. We look forward to having you join us again for another enriching experience. Thank you all for being a part of this journey with us. Until next time, stay curious and keep exploring. Goodbye.
Bye, Mia. Bye, Kauza.
Cikgu.
Kenapa?